from the Chatham Journal. We have Asheebo Rojas of the Chatham News and Record, and we have Coach John Berry that's going to be joining us, or actually has joined us, but we're going to primarily talk about basketball with him. Today we're going to talk about high school wrestling. Is Northwood looking for a new track coach? Mentioned what went on at Chatham Central High School yesterday at the basketball game, and then we'll get into the power rankings with Asheebo and the coach hashing it out, because there have been a bunch of games going on this week, and we will go. Let's take that out, and we should see all three of us shortly. There we go. Boom. Oh my gosh, I landed up in the middle today. So you got Asheebo to my left, your right, and you got Coach Berry to my right, your left. All right, so let's start off with wrestling. Asheebo, what's going on in the world of wrestling?
Yeah, so a couple of wrestling meets last week during Thanksgiving, over the break there. Northwood, they had their own tri-meet on November 21st. They beat Eastern Alamance 54-30 and won over Southern Lee 45-27. So they're continuing a great season there in wrestling. And then in the Cold Turkey Invitational, Asheboro, Jordan Matthews participated in there, and they had two wrestlers make the second round of the championship tournament. That was Aiden Terwilliger. He won over Coy Belcher of Eastern Alamance, but he lost in the second round to Michael James of Southwestern Randolph. And then Jordan Matthews, Rashad Thomas, he received the bye in the first round, but he lost by fall to Nico Otero of Asheboro in the second round. So still some pretty good wrestling from Jordan Matthews there in that meet. Unfortunately, they didn't have anyone go to the final in that tournament, but that's all we had in Chatham for wrestling.
All right, and we've got coming up tonight, we've got wrestling. It's Northwood versus Southeast Alamance versus Seaforth, and that's taking place at Southeast Alamance. I will be out there taking pictures of that and get the scores back to Asheebo so he can share it out on his Twitter account. All right. The other news that's come out recently, and we discussed this yesterday, is it came up at the Booster Club meeting, and I figure if it came up at the Booster Club meeting, it's pretty much public knowledge now, or will be, the fact that Coach Cameron Eisenhower will be leaving at the end of this year, effective January 1st. So I think, Asheebo, you were aware of this early on a few weeks ago. Is that right?
Yes, I was just waiting on Coach to make the official announcement. It looks like he did this week at the Booster Club meeting. So congrats to Coach Eisenhower on a great career at Northwood. I think you said it was 3 seasons with the Chargers, leading the cross country and track program. So and Coach Vernon, I think, like you said, Gene, is already in the process of looking for someone to replace him. So big shoes to fill there at the Northwood track and field coach position.
Yeah, and I was going to say the nice thing about Coach Eisenhower, had some winning performances. A couple of his student athletes have gone on to participate in college track and field events, and he had some individual and team winners over the years. And he actually won the Mid-Atlantic. He was Coach of the Year this year. So congratulations, Coach Eisenhower. We'll miss you, but I know you will be successful in your next venture. All right. Next thing we want to touch on quickly was last night at Chatham Charter High School. There was a basketball game, but there was also a special remembrance for Micah Gurley. Micah and his dad were killed in a auto accident back in 2012. There was a fund created, and they have created a new logo. That was not the new logo. They now have the logo of the bear at the center court of the basketball court in remembrance of Micah. That you can see that image on Facebook. There was also a story written back in 2020 when Mike and his dad got killed in that auto accident. And Asheebo, there was an article on that in the Chatham News and Record back in 2020, wasn't there?
Yes, Chadwick Fowler reported on kind of Micah's story and what happened to him and his father back in 2020. It's a good read on what he was like. He was very loved by the Chatham Central community and in Chatham County as well, playing baseball with Coach Walden and football as well. So unfortunate situation, but very, very glad to see that the school honored him last night. And also they swept South Davidson in basketball last night as well. So really good night for Chatham Central.
Well, that is going to lead into our discussion about basketball. We're going to talk about basketball. I'm probably most of this conversation going to be off screen because Asheebo and Coach Berry are going to go at it. We're also going to talk about power rankings. There's been a bunch of games that either one of us have, all three of us have either been there or we've been at individual games. So, Asheebo, let's have you take off the lead, and I'll let you and Coach Berry go at it.
Yeah, so we just start with games from last week, and then we start with the boys' side here. Seaforth, it's a lot of season their season opener over St. Paul's on November 20th, 74-47, and all three of us were there at that one. That one was a rout, for Seaforth. Kind of not. I think Coach Bear. I think you said you were a little surprised, how well they played coming out to start. Were you?
Yes, I think Seaforth debuted their new style of play this year, which is pressure, and more pressure. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they're trying to break the team down. And once they break them down, then they can run up the score. And ultimately, that's what happened with St. Paul. I think that their big man got into a little bit of a foul trouble. Didn't play as much as he wanted to play, and that fed right into what Seaforth wanted to do. And ultimately, they took care of business in front of the home crowd. It was a great win for Seaforth. Super proud of the coaching staff as well as the players.
Yeah, and we saw Coach Ranelli was bringing 5 in, 5 out. That's his style of substitution this year, and we asked him about it, and he said it's just because they're deep, and we saw that during the game. They had, of course, Cooper Jones, who we expected to be, the main guy, but also, he was the main guy in the first half, but then in the second half, we had Nate Emerson, who was a transfer. This is his first game, first real game with the Hawks and with his new teammates. So, and I think he had 16, scored 13 of them in the second half. They're really deep, like Coach Brunelli was saying. They really have a lot of players that can go off every night, and that's what he said. The system is built for that, for anybody to be successful on any given night. So they'll be a really interesting team to watch down the road, just to see, who's gonna be the guy night in, night out. Because it could come from Tyshawn Davenport, who still also had a good game in that one too. And then the other guards, they have plenty of guards that can go in for them and be productive on the court. So really, yep. I guess kind of impressed to see what we saw from Seaforth in that game.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you sleep on Seaforth, you may be in for a big surprise, because this group of players have a chip on their shoulder. They actually want to prove that they are a lot better, or they're a lot better than what people think they are, given that Jaron Stevenson isn't here. So again, if you come and play Seaforth and you don't have your hard hat on, and you're not ready to play, you're not ready to be intense and be physical, it could be a long day in the office. I am definitely looking forward to Seaforth next game, as well as the remaining games of the season.
Right, and they played again, I think that week too, or this week last night.
Well, what ended up happening was, I'm glad you brought that up, Asheebo. They actually canceled that game because they was going to play this team twice in a period of like a month. They still going to play them in another 3 weeks or so away. But what they did was they substituted this particular game with Hillside, and they're going to play Hillside on the 20th of December at Hillside. So that should be a really, really, really good game, because I'm very familiar with Coach Graves. He's a legend in Durham. He tends to have those teams ready to go year after year after year after year after year. He's put out many, many college players, and if I'm not mistaken, he had a few pro players. So that should be an awesome game, because they like to get at it as well, getting up and down the court, pressing. So now you got two quote-unquote teams that play a similar style. It should be fireworks. I am definitely looking forward to that game on the 20th of December at Hillside in Durham.
Yep, and then the Hawks will go to Carborough on Thursday. Yep, they have Carborough on Thursday, and then other boys teams. We got Chatham Central also playing their first regular season game last week. They beat Cedar Ridge 65-48, and I want to talk about Reed Albright. He had 30 points in that game. That was his career high. Yeah, and
we're back.
Say that again, Gene.
We had temporarily lost connection back. Last thing I heard was that Seaforth will be December 20th.
Yes. Yes, and to your point, Asheebo, I am very interested in checking out Chatham Central. In fact, tonight they play Triangle Math and Science away, and I am going to go to that game, check it out, see what's going on, so that we can go ahead and give a report on what they're actually up to specifically on the court, and I can go and witness what you witness, with their star player. So tonight I'll definitely be at Triangle Math and Science. Check them out. And within the next roundup, next time we talk, I'll definitely have a lot more to say about Chatham Central.
Yeah, and even last night when they beat South Davidson, the final score of that one was 73-58. Reed Albright, once again, he went for 30 in the season opener, and this one he went for 29 and I think 11 rebounds, so a double-double there. I mean, and he's shooting 61% from the floor. I mean, he's really been playing outstanding for Chatham Central. And is looking like one of the better players in the county as well. So definitely, I will be at their game Friday against Western Hornet. So definitely wanted to see how he does in that one. I think that one's going to be against some higher classification competition, some good competition as well. So really interested to see how they doing that and how they kind of pair up against other Chatham County teams as well during the season. And then we also had Jordan Matthews last week. They lost the first game of the season to Southern Lee, 81-47. That one was a tough game for them. Southern Lee's we talked about Southern Lee. They're a really good team, really good competition for them. And also in the boys' side, Chatham Charter lost to Voyager 81-40 last week as well. But I think last night they beat Albemarle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Both teams do not have anything to hang their head. They don't have to hang their head. Both of those teams are very, very good. Southern Lee, I know those coaches personally. We played them last year, and even that JV team is really good. So the varsity is really good, where Nate Emerson actually came from, and then that JV is pretty good. So the fact that Chatham Central lost to Southern V, listen, it happens to all of us. No worries. The Voyager game, listen, I'm very, very close with Mike Huff, the now again head coach for the Voyager Academy. This man knows what he's doing. His son Jay Huff is actually in the pros. In fact, when I was over at Woods Charter with Mike's kids, we actually played against Mike Huff and Jay Huff, who his son was, on that particular team. That team is always well coached. They always well prepared. They know what they're doing. They have 4 or 5 assistant coaches deep. So when Chatham Charter played that team, listen, you're not going in there playing a bunch of I'm not going to say the word scrubs, but you're not going in there playing a bunch of players or coaches that don't know what they're doing. They really do know what they're doing. So when Chatham Charter played them, I think it's great that they was willing to step up and play a team at that particular caliber, because even though they may have lost the game, long term is going to benefit them down in the future. So hats off to Coach Messier and the guys for stepping up and playing a team such as Voyager Academy, led by the great Coach Mike Huff.
Yeah, like you said, playing teams like that, that's really good for them. And Coach Messier was even telling me, and we keep saying it, it's not the same team as last year. So we can't really compare, what they did last year to this year. And Coach Messier has got a lot of new players and new faces that he's trying to put together and build back up to what we know Chatham Charter basketball usually is. So
that leads, hey, before we go on the other to the next portion of this, yesterday's game, we were all at the Northwood girls basketball games. We were talking about the fact that they played a 4A team. They didn't win that game, but what do you guys? What's your opinion on playing tough teams at the beginning of the season for any of the Chatham High School basketball teams? Let's start with you, Asheebo.
Yeah, well, first off, if you have an experienced team and they pretty much understand the sets, the philosophy, the way things are. They have, some experience under their belt. I don't mind at all for those teams to go out there and play, some of the tougher teams early in the season to kind of wake them up, to kind of get them in mid-season form. But if you are a new team where you just starting to figure things out, you're trying to figure out the chemistry, your rotations, you're trying to get a mastery of the sets. I don't necessarily want to play some of those upper echelon teams initially. I would rather get a couple of tune-up games first to kind of iron out the kinks. And by the time we get to early to mid-December, then I'm ready to start stepping it up and playing some of those other teams. The danger is this. If you play one of those upper echelon teams too early when your team is not quite ready and you have a very bad experience, it potentially can have a carryover. That's one of the dangerous things. But on the flip side, if you do fairly well and maybe even get a victory, it can also propel you. So you have to kind of weigh the pros and cons, determine, what's best for your group, and then proceed accordingly.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach Barry. And even with the experienced teams, I think playing those better teams early on really helps them in certain situations that they will see, in the playoffs or down in the road when we're playing conference games and trying to get into the playoffs. We saw it with Northwood girls last night. That's a close game, second close game of the year. They also found a way to climb back after being down at halftime. Just certain situations like late game situations, fouling situations, running different sets out of the inbounds and timeouts, that really were important for winning that game and climbing back in after being down so much. That I think that really helps the team see where they are, kind of take some things and improve on for down the road, because we know what they're going to see in the conference play. They're going to see Seaford. They're going to see hungry teams like Chatham Central that are going to come to play. So I think seeing that early on really prepares them for that, so that when it's time for playoffs and time to get playoff seeding, it's not an issue of, why are we still doing things that we should have, kinked out, like you said, early on in the season.
Yeah, I think the case of Northwood is interesting because many of those girls played last year, even a year before. In fact, I know two girls in particular, Natalia Whitaker as well as Skylar Adams. They were on that championship team 2-3 years ago. So they had big league or big time experience, plus the coaches the same. They run the same exact sets. So Northwood stepping up and playing a 4A team early in the season won't be a bad situation for them because they essentially understand, what needs to be done. So this is a good marker point as to where they are at in the season right now as far as where they need to go. So no problems whatsoever in the case of Northwood playing Apex Friendship. But if you have a team that just got formed and you just pulling players off the street, you trying to get kids to come out and try basketball, and you put them up against a team, that's a 4A juggernaut, and they go out there and get smashed, I'm not sure that's going to be helpful, to those players as well as the program moving forward.
Right. And Gene, if it's all good, you're going to go into the basketball power rankings for boys.
Let's do it.
All right. So these are power rankings we had in the paper come out today, just based off of the season, all leading up to this week. This is really the first official power rankings for the season. We've seen every team play, every team has gotten started with their season. So November 20th, power rankings for the boys. Coming in at number 1, I got Northwood. Even though, like we said, we still haven't seen them play yet, but we know no one can really top Northwood right now. We know what they're working with Drake Powell and Fred and those guys. Number 2, I got Seaford. We were just talking about Seaford, man. They're really coming like with a really deep team, playing really sound basketball and playing together. That's one of the big things we saw in that game against St. Paul's too. Even with the loss of Jaron Stevenson, these guys are still together. They're experienced. They played here for 2 or 3 years, and even adding new guys. They're still making it work. So hats off to Seaford. They're looking really good. At number 3, I got Jordan Matthews. Even though they took the tough loss, like we said, that was a really good Southern League team they played. But we know they still have a lot of talent with Brennan Oldham and those guys still out there at Jordan Matthews. They got a lot of great talent at the guard and forward position that can really help them down the stretch. And then at 4, I got Chatham Central. They're playing some really good basketball, especially with Reed Albright behind him, and it's near 30-point performances and double-doubles. And then at number 5, I got Chatham Charter, and number 6, Woods Charter. Coach Barry, what's your thoughts on that?
The only one that I'm fairly comfortable with is the Northwood at number 1. Northwood at the number 1 slot. After that, it's almost like I have to see a little bit more information. But I have seen Seaforth, and I know they're going to apply lots of pressure. And I know they're going to play hard, they're going to play intense, and they're going to be physical. And just knowing that type of style and knowing what it does to teams, you have to put them, I'm agree with you, right now at that second spot. Until I see what Jordan Matthews, what Chatham Central, and even Chatham Charter would do against that pressure, I'm going to go ahead and put them in that number 2 slot for now. As far as the number 3, 4, and 5, I think it's a pick 'em. Again, I need to see Jordan Matthews. I need to see them play Chatham Central, which is one of the reasons why I'm going to see Chatham Central tonight, because that's going to give me a really good idea in terms of what potentially could happen when Central plays Jordan Matthews. And depending upon what I see there, then I could be a little bit more definitive. But the sleeper in this whole thing is Coach Messier. This coach is no joke. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to make adjustments. He's been around the block. He's played many teams over the last 4 or 5 years. The number of games that he's played over the last 2 or 3 years, it probably is an additional 1 season based on all the extra games that he's played. I say all that to say Chatham Charter potentially could be as high as that 2-3 spot, depending upon what I'm looking at. So again, until I see them play, I'm going to hold judgment on them for now. And then you have Woods Charter. It's a smaller school. They don't have a lot to work with. So it would be unfair to pit them up against a Northwood or a Seaforth or some of these other schools who are loaded with numbers and they can construct a super solid team of elder players. So yes, I agree with you there as well. I think Woods would be slated in that position until they get a little bit more experience.
Yeah, like you said, it's still early in the season. And Chatham Charter, like you said, we know what Coach Messier can do with his guys. And like you said, like you've been saying, they're playing really good teams early on. So we can't really judge them based off the scoreboard. We got to see, who they have, how they're running their systems, and just how they're playing there. So, of course, we'll see more of Chatham Central, like you said, tonight for you. And I'll see them on Friday. We'll circle back around to Chatham Charter and Woods Charter again later on during the season.
Right, because the truth of the matter is when you start looking at Voyager Academy, which is one of the teams that Chatham Charter has played, they are arguably could be in our number 2 slot if we was to rate them right now amongst all these teams behind Northwood. And if you have a team like Chatham Charter playing that kind of team at that caliber and playing the way they played, who knows what is going to end up at. So no, I'm totally good right now with your power ratings, especially with Northwood number 1. You would probably have to put Seaford. You have to put Seaford number 2 at this point, and then the next 2 to 3, I think it's a pick 'em with Woods, ending at the bottom. But it's nothing. It's no slight against Woods. Woods is always that little engine that always can. They're always going to fight. I know Coach Leonard McNair got those boys. I know they won their first game last week. I spoke to them briefly a couple of days ago because I actually went to a middle school game. They had Woods Charter played Hard River Academy, and I saw Coach Leonard McNair, and he said, "Yeah, Coach, man, we're pretty comfortable right now. We're getting our confidence up, and we're looking forward to getting that second W in a row." So I was like, "Cool." I dapped up Coach Leonard McNair, and I'm looking forward to great things from him and his group.
Yep, and then wanted to say also too, speaking of Northwood, before we get into the girls, the Capital City Classic bracket was released last night, and in the first round, we got Northwood playing North Salem on December 16th at 5:30 p.m. So anyone that's interested in watching Northwood go up to Salem, Oregon, and compete against some of the best teams in the country. That's where they'll be at for their first game, December 16th, 5:30 p.m.
Yeah, and I just want to mention on that is if you go to the Capital City Classic website, they're going to have it available that you can watch it on the internet pay-per-view. I think it's either going to be $9 or $10. Having talked to Coach Brown a couple of weeks ago, I think he mentioned that Northwood is guaranteed playing at least four games. So they're excited about it. I did a quick interview with them that's available on YouTube. Also, just wanted to also mention we're going to be going into talking about girls. If someone doesn't agree with the power rankings, that's fine. That's as you can see, Coach Berry and Asheebo don't quite agree. They kind of we agree on certain things, but they've got different perspectives based upon the fact that they've seen and they know the history of some of these other teams. But that's out there. The other thing I want to say is Coach Berry took the opportunity yesterday during the girls' basketball game at Northwood to be commentator during the varsity game. We've already got the first quarter and the second channel. The good thing about it is, you guys, you will see somebody up in the stands with their video cameras taking videos of the game, but you know what? They don't have Coach Berry commentating, and then that's worth listening. The other thing too is we're trying this out because we did get a good feedback on it. We're doing 2-minute segments at the half and at the end with both Coach Berry and Asheebo giving their assessment. Hey, here we are at the halfway point, and here's how the game went. So those are available on Facebook and both YouTube. And again, Scrum Method, we're going to get better at that. But I think if you gentlemen want to say anything else about boys, that's fine. Otherwise, let's go into the girls' power ranking.
Yeah, so we can go into the girls' basketball kind of recap from last week, starting with Seaforth again. That was another rout over St. Paul, 62-26. That one was the Gabby White show, kind of, especially at the start in the first 3 quarters. She had tied her career high of 26 points. Defensively, Seaforth only allowed St. Paul's to shoot 21% from the floor. And we were Coach Barrett, we were looking at Seaforth's defensive schemes. I mean, they were mixing it up with a 2-3 zone. And then in the press, they really hunkered down on the press and created a lot of turnovers that turned into quick offense on the other end. So it was just a really all-around dominant performance from Seaforth in that one. I think also Katie Leonard was also in double digits in that one. So they had a lot of other people get involved as well. So what were your thoughts on Seaforth in their first game?
Yeah, I think that game versus St. Paul was a dominant performance by the Seaforth Lady Hawks. As you mentioned before, they mixed in multiple defenses. They started with man, they went to zone, they went to a 2-2-1 press. They mixed in and they constantly kept the other team off balance. They understood that this team had one primary offensive weapon, number 11, who was their shooter, and they went ahead and clamped her down. And ultimately, over the course of the game, this team wore down, started taking more and more terrible shots, and those terrible shots led to long rebounds, runouts for layups, and ultimately, you look up, this team was down by 40 with 2 minutes left remaining in the third quarter. So it was a masterful game by the Seaforth Lady Hawks, led by the great Gabby White. And let me just tell you something here, man. I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and I mentioned you have level 1 players, level 2 players, level 3 players. And for each level, there's different levels at that level. At level 1, you have the upper, the mid, and the bottom tier. Gabby White is the upper level of level 1. And I'm going to tell you straight up, if teams do not have anybody to match Gabby White and she stays in the game, Seaforth Lady Hawks is going to be very, very difficult to beat. She plays physical, she's fast, she's athletic. Her basketball IQ is through the roof. She gets her teammates involved. She listens to the coach. She plays system ball. I think she is easily a Division I strong prospects to play at the next level. So super proud of Gabby White. I think it's going to be much, much more to come with that. So to your point, yes, the Seaforth Lady Hawks completely dominated the St. Paul lady team. And I think we're going to see a lot of this if teams aren't ready to deal with Gabby White and the entire crew over at Seaforth.
Yeah, and then they did it again the day after Thanksgiving at the Southeast Raleigh Thanksgiving Invitational against Southeast Raleigh. They beat them 57-39, and that one, White scored 22, and Katie Leonard poured in 19 points in that one. So, and like you said, Gabby White, she imposes. We were talking last night about her. She imposes her will, physically in the game, and it's just not just points, it's not just scoring, it's rebounds. You might see Gabby White, she'll have 26 points, but also 15, 14 rebounds in the rebound column. And you see it during the game. She'll go down and grab it, take it from people. So she really has the winning mentality and the winning spirit of wanting to go out there and destroy her competition, which I think would really resonate well with Seaforth's roster and goes well with Coach Bird too. He's a very passionate coach, and they talk about getting 1% better. That St. Paul's team, I think they beat by 2 points last year in the playoffs. They bring back Jashante Harris. That was number 11. That was killing them in that playoff game. And then in this one, it's like it's a whole different story. It's almost as if those games weren't just a few months apart. So, that's the scary thing about Seaforth.
Yeah, I think that second game at Southeast Raleigh, I actually attended that particular game. And I think the story of that game was this. Southeast Raleigh, older team, 4A group, by the way, they came in with one thing on mind. They wanted to put extreme pressure on the Seaford Lady Hawks. And ultimately, I think what gave the Seaford Lady Hawks the advantage was they played great team basketball. One person did not attempt to dominate, the entire game, because we understood that if, individually, you're not going to beat this team. But if we play as a group, we play as a unit, we play on the string, we can get it done. That particular game, many players contributed. Obviously, you had Gabby White, you had Katie Leonard, you had Peyton Collins, you had Hannah Adaji, you had Jocelyn Gessner, and you also had Sydney coming off the bench, as well as Mia Moore pitching in as well. And I think between the entire team effort with the dominance of a Gabby White as well as a Katie Leonard, that basically gave them the advantage over Southeast Raleigh, which took them to the top and gave them a 2-0 record.
Yep. And then moving on, we talk about Northwood. Last week they they won a close game over Jordan, 39-22, on November 21st. And then in that one, Skylar Adams, she had 15 points and 7 rebounds. Last night, it was a little bit of a struggle for Skylar Adams and really all of Northwood offensively. A lot of shots just weren't falling earlier against Apex Friendship. And defensively, I mean, they just couldn't stop Jasmine Navarre. She had 20 in the first half, in the game with 26, I think. So they were down, I think, 13 at halftime. Come out in the second half, they get the press going, they get on the run, they come in they get within, I think, 5 points at one point there in the second half. So we saw some bad things early on from Northwood, but we saw some really good things from them in the second half. Obviously, Apex Friendship 4A competition, really good players on that team, very well coached. So what were your thoughts from Northwood this past week, and especially last night?
Although the Lady Chargers lost to the Apex Friendship basketball team, I think they should hold their head very, very high. They came out, they played a 4A team, loaded. They have the superstar, Jasmine Navarre, as you mentioned before. She did what she does. But ultimately, even though we got down by 13 points in the first half, the second half, it was a completely different story. The intensity was up. The physicality was up. We threw that press on them. We made a lot of noise. We had Apex Friendship scrambling for a minute. And ultimately, had we played that way starting the game in the first quarter, my belief is we would have won that game against Apex Friendship. And by the way, let me make this point real clear about the Northwood Ladies Chargers. They are for real. They're going to compete with everybody they play, including Seaforth. They have players from top to bottom. Start with Whitaker, Natalia Whitaker. You have Skylar Adams. You have Nia Henry. You have the Glover sisters. That team is loaded. They're not going anywhere, and they're going to compete hard. They're going to fight. They have that championship medal, and I fully expect the Northwood Lady Chargers to be there at the end. And by the way, they have a couple of sharpshooters they bring off the bench with Roberts as well as Brooks. So if they need a three late in the game or even in the middle of the game, they could bring somebody in, and they don't have any problems throwing those shots up, from the arc to go ahead and bring their team back into the game. So I'm looking forward to big things out of the Northwood Lady Chargers. Have a lot to be proud of. This is only their second game. I'm sure they're going to iron out the kinks, and Coach Snipes is going to have these girls ready to go, and I look forward to them playing their next game because my opinion is they're going to win a lot more games than they lose.
Yeah, they can hurt you in a lot of ways. And like we were just talking about earlier, the fact that they were down against a team like that and still found a way to climb back, overcome the shooting struggles from the beginning and find a way to make adjustments was a really good sign of what they could do, once they play like that for a whole game. So going into some other teams that played during the week, we had Chatham Central. They had lost to Cedar Ridge 51-40 on November 21st, but they followed that up last night with a win over South Davidson. Really good win for them. I think they won that one 69-34 in a blowout. So, and in that one, Carolee Dotson, 22 points, and I think she had 10 rebounds. So a double-double for Carolee Dotson. She also had 6 steals and 2 blocks. So also was on her game. She was also on her game defensively. Some really good things from Chatham Central. We heard from Coach Albright at the media day. That's kind of their brand. They're going to play really competitive, really chippy basketball. They're really hungry to show that, hey, look at us. We talk about Northwood, we talk about Seaforth and Chatham County, but Chatham Central wants to be right there with the best. So what do you think about Chatham Central and kind of what you've seen from them so far? I know you haven't seen them personally, but how do you feel about how they've been playing the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, well, just based upon what Coach Albright's been talking about, based upon your reporting, and based upon the many, many years of me seeing that group play, a blue collar, scrappy, they're going to fight tooth and nail. Based upon what you're saying, it doesn't surprise me at all. And the one thing that I'm looking forward to tonight when I go check them out against Triangle Math and Science is to see some of the things that you're talking about. One of the things that Chatham Central the girls I'm talking about historically, has always had to deal with is when you run at people, if they can't handle it, you're going to have a really good time. You're going to have a lot of success. But on the flip side of the coin, if you run at people and this team can handle that pressure, then you're going to have to be able to go to that second game plan and play a slightly different way. This is the type of thing that I'm going to be interested in seeing with the Chatham Central lady basketball team. Are they versatile? Can they play you in multiple ways in order to obtain success in any given game? So to your point, it doesn't surprise me what you're talking about. I'm looking forward to seeing them tonight. And next week, I'll be able to give you more of a detailed explanation as to what I'm seeing.
All right. So as Chatham Central, your number 3 team on the girls power ranking, Asheebo. And the thing is, we've got about 5 minutes, so we need to keep moving.
Yeah, we can go through Jordan Matthews as well. We can go quick on these. Jordan Matthews, they beat Southern Lee last week, 57-25. And I had noted in the round, it's the first time the Lady Jets have won 2 games in a row since 2021. So they're really turning it around this year, especially with senior Leah Carter leading the way. She had 22 points and 7 rebounds in that game. And also the other senior, Reagan Smith, had 14 points and 9 rebounds in that one too. And I don't think we didn't see any other things from Chatham Charter throughout the week, except last night. They lost a close one to Albemarle by 1 point, 65-64. And Woods Charter has not played since last week either. So we can go through the girls' power rankings for the week of November 20th. Coming in at number 1, of course, I got Seaforth there. We talked about Gabby White, Katie Leonard, and Coach Bird. They have a really good system going on. Gabby White, just dominant player. Katie Leonard's doing a really good job of contributing through the mid-range and hitting her spots as well. So they have a really good team up there at Seaforth. Number 2, we got Northwood. Number 3, we got Chatham Charter. Number 4, I got Jordan Matthews. And number 5, I got Chatham Central. Now, the 3 through 5, Coach Barry, is kind of a pick 'em, I would say too, because I got to see Chatham Central. I think they are very capable of getting into that 4 spot over Chatham Charter and Jordan Matthews. For right now, I haven't seen them yet, so for right now, I got them at 5, and at number 6, I got Woods Charter. So, tell me your thoughts, Coach Barry.
100%. My beliefs 100%. Seaforth, Northwood. I think Chatham Charter. I think I got to see them because I think they potentially could compete with Jordan Matthews and Chatham Central, and they could very well be in that 3 spot. And ultimately, I want to see Jordan Matthews play Chatham Central, and let's see what's going on. But no, I agree with you 100% on this one, Asheebo.
Yeah, that's interesting. We talked about Northwood and Seaforth being the game for the boys and girls side, but I mean, Chatham Central and Jordan Matthews, that's another Chatham County rivalry that's going to have some noise around it this year, with both teams being competitive, especially on the girls side. With Jordan Matthews, I mean, what we're seeing from them, a lot of production offensively, great senior leadership. Coach Piggy's got a really good group, so it's going to be a really good season for girls basketball.
Right. And that's another reason why I like this whole Chatham Charter potentially at the 3 spot, because I know historically they continue to play those Chatham County schools,
right,
like Jordan Matthews, like Chatham Central. So then this is nothing foreign to them. They're used to it. So I can very well see those 3 teams duking it out, and you can flip a coin as to who's going to be 1, 2, and 3 amongst those 3. So until I see those guys play, then I'll be able to give you a definitive answer in terms of what I believe.
All right. It sounds like we've got the girls' power rankings, folks. If you agree with them or disagree, you can remark in the comments on our Facebook page. We're also out on Twitter. I think last week on Twitter, this live stream generated 80 views. And I never thought we'd have that many views on Twitter. We've got several hundred on Facebook. And again, we're also on YouTube, but that's more of an archival type of thing. Plus, what you will find is after tomorrow, usually after Thursday, I usually take little chunks and pieces out of there and put them up, and people like to see those. Let's finish up with, hey, what's in the Chatham News and Record for sports-wise, Asheebo, and also who's your athlete of the week, and then we'll finish up with where everyone's going to be for the next 3 to 7 days. Go.
Yeah, so we got the 2 game stories from we got the boys game of the week that I went to Seaforth and St. Paul's, and then the girls game Seaforth and St. Paul's as well. Those more in-depth stories from those 2 games last week. And then we also got pretty cool story. Northwood is planning on building a new field house and athletic facility in front of to replace those modular classrooms they have next to their existing field house. They collaborated with Taylor Hobbs, father of Griffin Hobbs on the Northwood basketball team at Hobbs Architects, and they put together a really cool rendition of what they hope this new field house will look like. It's going to be 10,000 square feet, and they're asking the community to help raise the funds for it. It's going to be about a $3 million project. So and talk to Coach Vernon about it. It's been a need for the school for a while, because I think their existing one was built in 1978, and especially these past couple of years, it's only been able to house football in the fall, and then I think lacrosse and baseball in the spring. So of course, they got a whole bunch of other sports that have been using space in the class in the school building, and they want to bring all those teams together in one big, nice athletic facility. So read about that and the plans on there. And also, we got the roundup for all the sports during the week. Basketball and wrestling just happened last week. Hopefully, we'll get some more from swimming and indoor track as their seasons get rolling in the next couple of weeks. And then athlete of the week is Gabby White. Kind of a no-brainer for me this week. She had 26, of course, tying her career high of 26 points and 15 rebounds, also having 5 assists against St. Paul's, and then following that up with 22 points and 6 rebounds against Southeast Raleigh. So she had a really good week for Seaforth, and gets recognized for athlete of the week in this week's paper.
This week, again, I mentioned earlier, tonight I'm going to go to Triangle Math. I'm going to check out the Chatham Central basketball team, boys and the girls. And on Tuesday, the Seaford basketball teams, both boys and girls, they actually play Grace Christian Academy. On the girls' side, they have a superstar girl player that we're going to have to play. They've had their way with us the last 2 years. This particular player is she's nationally ranked in the top in the country, and that's going to be a game that's going to be a marker point for the Seaford Lady Hawks. And on the flip side, you have the boys. That game should be very, very competitive. They have a very good team, and this should be a good test for Seaford to see if this pressure style play is going to affect the team like that. So this Wednesday, as well as on Tuesday, I'll catch those ball games live.
Asheebo?
Yep, for the remainder of this week, like I said, I'll be at Chatham Central on Friday against Western Hornet. I want to go see the boys team for the first time. Coach Burke's team, I think they are 2-0, if I'm not mistaken. 2 good wins, and see what they got going on down in Chatham Central, and give you guys, like Coach Berry said, a better report of what's going on with the Bears. So,
and I just want to mention, don't go on Twitter at AsheeboR38. He puts up updates as well as little videos and images. So that's great. Something that is brand new to the county. Previous sports reporters haven't done it. I will be at Eastern Southeast Alamance tonight, taking pictures of Northwood versus Seaforth versus Eastern Alamance. Can't pass up the opportunity to see 2 Chatham County teams wrestling. And then I will be at the Seaforth home game later on this week. Still don't know what I'm doing for next week, but that's where we're at. Gentlemen, anything else before we close up? Nope. All right. That's great, folks. Well, we're going to take off. Again, see you next Wednesday at noontime. Appreciate all the folks that are watching. Feel free to repost and share with your family